The year is 1925. A man sits in a luxury suite at the Hôtel de Crillon in Paris, holding a newspaper. The headline mentions the Eiffel Tower is in disrepair. It is rusting. It is expensive to maintain. To most, this is a civic nuisance. To Victor Lustig, it is an invoice. Victor Lustig is not an engineer or a government official. He is a career con artist with 25 aliases and a printing press for counterfeit money. By the time this story ends, he will have sold the most iconic landmark in France for a suitcase full of cash. And then, because he realized the system he exploited was built on human ego, he will do it again. This isn't just a story about a scam. It is a masterclass in the mechanics of asymmetrical information. It's about how a person can manufacture authority out of thin air by understanding one simple rule. People don't buy products, they buy the feeling of being an insider. Paris in the mid-20s was recovering from the Great War. The Eiffel Tower was never meant to be permanent. It was built for the 1889 World's Fair with a 20-year permit. By 1925, the city was divided on whether to keep it or scrap it. Lustig saw this division as a market opening. He didn't just walk up to a stranger and offer to sell the tower. That's a low-level hustle. Instead, he manufactured a reality. He commissioned high-quality government stationery, forged credentials, and invited the city's 6 largest scrap metal dealers to a confidential meeting at the Crillon. The setting was the first layer of the trap. The Crillon was where heads of state stayed. By hosting the meeting there, Lustig wasn't just a businessman, he was the embodiment of the French state. He told the dealers a secret. The government had decided the tower was a financial burden. It was to be dismantled and sold for scrap, 7,000 tons of iron. But because the public loved the landmark, the deal had to be handled with total discretion to avoid a riot. Notice the framing. He didn't ask them to buy iron. He asked them to help the government solve a sensitive problem. He turned a transaction into a patriotic duty. Among the 6 dealers was André Poisson. Poisson was a man with a specific vulnerability. He was a social climber. He was wealthy, but he lacked the prestige of the old money Parisian elite. Lustig spotted this instantly. In any complex negotiation, the person who wants the deal the most is the one who is most likely to ignore the red flags. The red flags were everywhere. Why was the government selling a national monument in a hotel room? Why was there no public tender? But Lustig understood the sunk cost of ego. Once Poisson believed he was the chosen one for this historic deal, his brain began filtering out any data that suggested he was being played. When Poisson showed a moment of hesitation, Lustig did something brilliant. He pivoted. He complained to Poisson that his government salary was too low to support his lifestyle. He wasn't asking for the sale anymore. He was asking for a bribe. This is the uncomfortable math of the con. To a legitimate businessman, a bribe is a red flag. To a man like Poisson, a bribe was a relief. In his mind, real government officials were corrupt. By asking for a kickback, Lustig proved he was real. He lowered his status to raise the credibility of the scam. Poisson paid the bribe, then he paid for the tower. Lustig walked away with the equivalent of over $1 million in today's currency. He didn't go to the police. He didn't flee to the mountains. He went to Vienna and waited for the news to break. It never did. This is the silent exit mechanism. Lustig knew that Poisson's pride was worth more than his money. To report the crime, he would have to admit to the entire world and to his competitors that he was the man who tried to buy the Eiffel Tower from a stranger in a hotel room. The shame was the ultimate insurance policy. In finance, we call this a lack of transparency. When a market is opaque, the victim is often as complicit in the silence as the perpetrator is in the crime. 6 months later, Lustig returned to Paris. He used the exact same stationery, the exact same hotel, and the exact same pitch. He sold the Eiffel Tower a second time to a different dealer. He only fled when his second mark grew suspicious and went to the police. We look back at this and think it's an artifact of a simpler time. We think we are too smart for the big store con. But the mechanism hasn't changed, only the assets have. Whether it's a scrap metal deal in 1925 or a digital currency play today, the architecture of the scam relies on 3 pillars: manufactured scarcity, the illusion of officialdom, and the victim's desire to be the only one in the room who knows the truth. Lustig eventually ended up in Alcatraz, but not for the Eiffel Tower. He was caught for counterfeiting currency, literally printing the value he wanted the world to see. It was the only way he knew to interact with the economy. The tower still stands. It's now one of the most valuable pieces of real estate on the planet, but it serves as a permanent monument to a psychological reality. The more iconic the asset, the easier it is to sell a lie about it. If someone offers you a seat at a table that shouldn't exist, you aren't the guest. You're the one paying for the room. The question isn't whether you would have bought the tower in 1925. The question is, what are you being sold right now that relies entirely on your fear of being left out of a secret?